A new Netflix documentary has made the Oscars shortlist for its experimental way of showing the power of unity in working through trauma.
The film Procession follows 6 men who are survivors of sexual abuse by Catholic priests and clergy. The therapy-inspired documentary uses memories, dreams, and experiences of these men to create scenes that help them explore the church culture, which enabled the abuse and the years of silence that followed.
Joining us with more is film director Robert Greene and Ed Gavagan, who is one of the survivors featured in Procession.
Thanks to both of you for joining us. Robert, I want to start with you. I read that you approached every step of this project as though it could be your last. Why was that?
Because that's the only safe way to do it, right? In order to take the risks necessary in this filmmaking process, this trauma and therapy influence process, to try to get to some level of healing, we really needed to have, the way we thought about it was every single room we built, both metaphorically and literally, had to have a doorway out. And that was the only safe way to do it. That was the only way to move forward. We needed to include the risk that these guys were taking, especially Ed, all of them together. We needed to include that risk in the process. And that was the only way to safely do it.
Ed, in the film Procession, we see you and the other survivors essentially re-traumatize yourself in recreating the scenes. Did you have any hesitation, any reservations about doing that? Or in the end, did you evolve? How did it impact you?
I think we had, I had a lot of reservations going in, and I was not confident that a documentary was going to help me. I thought a documentary was going to be good for the director, and here was this guy with a camera pointing it at some freaks, and then later on he'd say, hey, look, I made a documentary about some freaks. Why don't you look at it? And I wasn't interested in that. We talked to Robert, all of us, and Robert convinced us to give him a try, and we kept going and kept waiting for him to screw up or for him to not be trustworthy. And he delivered for us. We were ready at any moment to just say, this is not working, we can't do this. And as it went on, it became something that really helped me. It helped us guys with each other. And when we saw the finished product, we were just amazed at what Robert was able to put together from all this raw material that we gave him. And the thing for me now that it's done is it's taken 35, 40 years of shame off of me, put it where it belongs for the first time.
I covered the Catholic clergy abuse for the last several years and have met some of the other survivors and talked with them in the documentary Procession. And the one frustration always I heard from them was, no one believes us. Do you finally feel believed? Did this documentary Procession help you?
I do feel believed, and I think one of the things to remember is that we are accusing someone who is typically a pillar of the community, and we're accusing them of terrible things. And all we have is, I was in the room and he was in the room, and it was 40 years ago. And there's a presumption of innocence, right? This person is being accused by someone. Why are they doing that? But now, when you have 40 people saying the same thing, you have to believe the victims. And you have to believe that this pillar of the community has constructed a protective shell using his ability to help people and generate goodwill and have people owe him things, so that when this ever comes out, he's able to get this deniability because I'm a good person. How could he be such a monster? And yet, that's the thing that I hope this film is able to convey, is that these people who are pillars of the community doing good works are in fact monsters who use that as a shield.
You have powers in numbers.
Exactly. Robert, it must, feel good to hear Ed talk about your film in that way, that it, brought a certain amount of healing. It is a documentary that offers a very unique way of viewing sexual abuse in the Catholic Church. How did you, come up with this framework? Do you have a background in therapy at all? Or, and what do you hope viewers will take away from your film?
Well, I appreciate that so much. And yeah, my background is in making films. And frankly, when you make films, this is my 7th documentary feature. And when you make this many films, one of the things that happens is you start to really question, what's the point of putting a camera in someone's face? So we had to really think deeply about that. And so when we came to Ed, I mean, one of the ways we didn't re-traumatize, and it's important to say that, is that we gave power to the guys. Mm-hmm. And not only that's even framing it, in a certain way, they had the power as we made it because we made the film together. And I think that's what the convincing that Ed needed to hear was, it's not me making the film about you, it's us making it together. The drama therapist, Monica Finney, she was a big part of it. But ultimately, what we really want viewers to take away is that you can do this in your own life. Not necessarily, you don't have to make a film. You don't even have to go through drama therapy, but you can actually take the bull by the horns, the trauma that you're dealing with, whatever it is, you can do something with it. You can come together as a group and you can try to find some healing. And that's really what the message of the film is. And frankly, we want laws changed. I mean, right now we're trying to get laws changed in Missouri. We're trying to get laws changed and people get arrested in Wyoming. We want this film to have real world consequences as well.
And another thing, Robert, we're all anonymous people. We're not used to having our names. I'm not somebody who wants this linked to my name. I have a lot of other things going on in my life. I don't want somebody to Google my name and then have this come up. We did this to try and make a change.
It will inevitably help other survivors who haven't found the courage to speak yet. And I can see, even as we sit here, how emotional this is for you. It's been a decade or two since your abuse happened. But there is some good news, and no Oscar can ever erase what you've been through, but Procession is on the Oscar shortlist. How are you feeling?
Well, that's, it's always gratifying to be considered for an award. I think I'm not a filmmaker or any of that, so I just know that we did our best. What I got out of it is these 6 guys. I'm sorry. It's just, talking about it to strangers. I mean, it brings up a lot that I'm not used to this, So being able to express what it means in front of people that I don't know, I've waited a long time not to be ashamed. And finally, I feel like what Robert has done and the acclaim that he's done it so well, I just can't stress enough that it's taken the shame off of us and put it on the shoulders
and
where it
all
belongs.
the other survivors that you're helping when you do that. That's
Yes.
what's a big part of it.
Thank you.
And
Yes.
for any survivor who may be listening, who's looking for the courage to speak out, what do you say?
Well, I know you feel very alone, and it is hard. I think there are people that you can call that are not necessarily within the church, although I do think the church is making some efforts to have resources available. But I do think that people are ready to hear, and I think in the larger culture, people are prepared to believe now in a way that they weren't when I first came forward. I came forward to a police detective who basically said to me, "You're just looking for a check, right?" And I think nowadays things have evolved to the point where people tend to believe the victims in general more. And I also think that police departments have evolved as well. And I would just encourage people to speak out and reach out to people that look for someone to help.
It's a new time indeed.
It is. Ed Gavagan, thank you so much for joining us and for your bravery in speaking out because it helps so many people.
Thank you for helping us.
Thank you.
And thank you, Robert Greene, for joining us, and congratulations on the potential Oscar nod there.
Thank you so much for having us.